You never expect a woman with the perfect blonde bob and clipboard to try stealing your backyard dock like it's her God-given right. But when Vanessa Hargrove decided my private boathouse was the perfect launch pad for her little community profit scheme, she didn't just cross a line, she lit the fuse on her own spectacular downfall. In the sun-drenched cul-de-sacs of Pine Ridge Lakeside, Georgia, everything looked postcard perfect, identical beige houses with navy shutters, kids on bikes, and that man-made lake sparkling like it belonged in a real estate ad. But behind the white picket fences and mandatory lawn height rules, the air was thick with unspoken tension. The HOA ran the place like a mini dictatorship. And its president, Vanessa Hargrove, was the self-appointed queen. Ethan Brooks had always kept to himself. 44. Soft-spoken, with the kind of steady gaze that came from years of reviewing county compliance reports from his home office. After losing his wife 3 years earlier, the neighborhood whispers started. He's so withdrawn. Doesn't join the block parties. Probably thinks he's better than us. Ethan heard it all. He just smiled politely, nodded, and went back to restoring classic boats in his private boathouse, the one built entirely on his deeded lot, with its own narrow dock stretching into the lake. It was his sanctuary, his small permitted side business, and the one place that still felt like peace. That peace shattered on a bright Tuesday morning. Ethan was hosing down an old wooden Chris-Craft when he heard the click-clack of sensible heels on the wooden planks. Vanessa appeared in a pastel pink cardigan, oversized sunglasses, and that ever-present clipboard clutched like a weapon. Her smile was wide, but her eyes were cold. "Ethan. Sweetheart," she cooed, voice dripping with fake southern charm. "We need to have a little chat about community spirit." He shut off the hose and wiped his hands. "Morning, Vanessa. What can I do for you?" She tapped her pen. "The board has unanimously approved a beautiful new boat share program. Residents pay a modest monthly fee, and we provide access to shared boats. Your dock and boathouse are the only suitable launch point. It's perfect for everyone." Ethan raised an eyebrow. "My dock is on my private property, Vanessa. It's not HOA common area. I've got the deed, the surveys, and the county permits to prove it. I'm not turning my business into your rental fleet." Her smile tightened, lips thinning like a snapped rubber band. "Now, Ethan, don't be selfish. This is for the greater good. Families need affordable lake access. You're the only one standing in the way of progress." "Progress that happens to line someone's pockets?" he asked mildly. She laughed, a brittle, rehearsed sound. "You're misunderstanding. This is purely community-driven. I'll expect your full cooperation by the end of the week." She spun on her heel and marched off, heels punishing the dock like it had personally offended her. Ethan watched her go, something cold settling in his chest. He'd seen this type before in county filings, people who weaponized community to get what they wanted. He didn't yell. He didn't argue. He simply went inside, pulled out his notebook, and started writing down every word she'd said, just in case. The next morning, the real games began. 2 county code enforcement officers showed up at his door with clipboards of their own. "Mr. Brooks, we received a complaint about unauthorized commercial activity and safety violations at this address. Mind if we take a look?" Ethan smiled calmly. "Let me guess, Vanessa Hargrove from the HOA?" They wouldn't confirm, but the awkward glance said everything. He walked them through the boathouse, showed every permit, every insurance certificate, the stamped county approval for his small repair operation. Everything was pristine. The older officer scratched his head. Looks fully compliant to me. Sorry for the inconvenience. As they left, Ethan overheard one mutter into his radio. False report. Again. That afternoon, a bright yellow HOA violation notice was taped to his front door, $500 fine for non-cooperation with approved community initiatives. Ethan stared at it, then laughed, a low, genuine chuckle that surprised even him. All right, Vanessa, he murmured. Game on. He didn't pay the fine. Instead, he started digging, quietly, methodically. As a compliance specialist, he had access to public records most residents never touched. What he found made his blood run hot. Vanessa had submitted a county grant application for recreational development funds. In it, she'd listed Ethan's dock and boathouse as existing HOA-maintained community assets and forged what looked suspiciously like his initials on the signature page. Projected revenue, $68,000 in the first year alone. The boat share program wasn't charity, it was a cash grab. And she was trying to use his property as the golden goose without paying a dime. But she wasn't done being sloppy. The following week, another notice arrived, another $750 fine. This time for aesthetic violations on his dock, the same dock she wanted to commandeer. Neighbors started giving him strange looks at the mailbox. Someone had apparently been whispering that Ethan was anti-community and hoarding lake access. The rumors he'd ignored for years were being weaponized. Ethan still didn't explode. He attended the next HOA meeting for the first time ever. The clubhouse was packed with folding chairs and the smell of stale coffee. Vanessa stood at the podium like a televangelist. Pastel cardigan buttoned to the throat. Voice syrupy. We're making incredible progress on the boat share program. Everyone. Just a few more approvals and we'll be the envy of every lakeside community in Georgia. Ethan stood up from the back row, folder in hand. The room quieted. Mind if I add something? Vanessa? Her smile faltered for half a second. Oh, Ethan. Of course. Floor is yours. He walked to the front. Calm as still water. For those who don't know me, I'm Ethan Brooks. I own the property at 1422 Lakeshore Drive, privately own it, including the dock and boathouse. Vanessa here has been trying to commandeer it for this community program. What she hasn't mentioned is that she submitted county grant paperwork claiming my land as HOA property and forged my initials to do it. Gasps rippled through the crowd. He flipped open the folder and held up printed emails and the grant application. I forwarded copies to the county prosecutor this morning. Forgery on public documents to obtain funds? That's a felony. Folks. And that's not all. Vanessa's face went from confident to crimson in seconds. This is outrageous. Those were preliminary drafts. You're twisting everything. Ethan's voice stayed even. Almost gentle. You also called code enforcement twice with false reports. Wasted county time and taxpayer money. I have the incident logs. And the projected $68,000 revenue you listed? Funny how none of that was ever going to the residents, it was structured to flow through a shell company tied to your cousin's consulting firm. The room erupted. A retired teacher in the third row stood up. Vanessa. Is this true? You tried to steal the man's dock? Vanessa gripped the podium. Knuckles white. This is a witch hunt. I've given years to this community. Ethan just looked at her. Years of fining people for grass half an inch too tall while skimming from the emergency fund. Apparently. That was the match that lit the bonfire. Within 48 hours, the county opened a formal investigation. What started as a simple forgery case snowballed when auditors dug deeper. Turns out Vanessa had been running a tidy little grift for years, fake landscaping invoices, phantom repair contracts paid to companies that existed only on paper, and over $87,000 diverted from HOA dues into accounts she controlled. The boat share program was just the latest scheme to launder more money and expand her control. Neighbors who'd once nodded along to her community-first speeches started coming forward. One older couple admitted she'd threatened to fine them into foreclosure if they didn't support her initiatives. Another showed proof of inflated fees funneled to her cousin's fake consulting gigs. Ethan stayed in the background, letting the evidence do the talking. He never raised his voice. He never gloated. He simply handed over every document, every time-stamped recording of their conversations, perfectly legal in Georgia, and let the system he knew so well grind forward. The climax came on a bright Thursday morning when two unmarked county vehicles pulled up to Vanessa's perfectly manicured house. She answered the door in her usual floral blouse and heels, clipboard still in hand like armor. The lead investigator handed her the sealed envelope. Her face, usually so composed, cracked into pure panic, eyes wide, mouth slack, color draining until she looked almost gray. "You're joking," she whispered, voice cracking for the first time anyone could remember. "No, ma'am," the investigator said flatly. "You're being charged with forgery, fraud, embezzlement, and misuse of public position. We'll need you to come with us." The neighborhood watched from behind curtains as she was escorted to the vehicle. No handcuffs in the driveway, that would come later at booking, but the humiliation was complete. The Queen had been dethroned in broad daylight. In the months that followed, Pine Ridge Lakeside changed. The HOA was restructured under new leadership, a no-nonsense retired accountant who insisted every expenditure be posted online with receipts. Residents voted to strip the board of emergency discretion powers that Vanessa had abused. Ethan's property was permanently protected by updated county filings, and the boat share program died a quiet, well-deserved death. People started stopping by Ethan's dock, not to demand anything, but to say thank you. The same neighbors who'd once whispered about him now brought over homemade pies and admitted they'd been afraid to speak up. One young mom told him, tears in her eyes, "I thought fighting back was pointless. You showed us it wasn't." Ethan just smiled that quiet smile. Nobody gets to take what's yours just because they slap a community label on it. He kept restoring boats. He kept his business small and honest. And every evening, as the sun set over the lake, he'd sit on his dock with a cold drink, watching the water and remembering how one woman's greed had nearly ruined everything, until patience, paperwork, and the truth turned the tables completely. The mask had finally slipped, and the view underneath was ugly as sin. So here's the question. Folks, right or wrong, was Ethan the selfish neighbor for protecting what was legally his? Or was Vanessa the real villain for abusing power, forging documents, and stealing from the very community she claimed to serve? If your HOA came for your backyard tomorrow for the greater good, would you stay silent like most people or would you start taking notes? Drop your thoughts below. I'm reading every single one.